All right, welcome to Domain with me. This is a series I do for dn.biz where I just kind of show you what I'm doing in my life as a full-time domainer, domain name investor, digital marketer, blogger, and the like. But today I wanted to go over getting a message from Verisign last week with their blog where they posted the top 10 trending keywords in common net registrations in February. So I subscribe to the blog, recommend you do also, and you'll get this each month. And so if you go to their website and you go to the blog here, you'll get their blog post, the top 10 trending words in common net registrations in February. And you'll see under .com, worlds, apex, dentistry, winning, legends, similar top 10 in net. The 6 through 10 is for those of you that are listening on the podcast and not watching. This number 6 through 10 are they, keeper, pinpoint, Amelia, and fold. Now, the interesting thing about language is you can say it meaning one thing and it can be received meaning something else. So I learned quite a bit ago that when you see this post, it says top 10 trending keywords, and they say with more than 300 million domain names registered, there are numerous examples of trending keywords reflected by registrations. And we've shown in the past that there is a correlation between registrations and trends. And so that they say that they publish a blog post identifying the top 10 trending common net keywords during the preceding month. Now, no one knows how they determine that, but I don't necessarily think it's the actual top 10. It may be the top 10 that have some type of increase in percentages or something like that. So what I wanted to do was use another tool that they have called the Domain Scope. And I'm going to go to domainscope.com, and I wanted to see what these words look like when I do it there. So what you do here on Domain Scope, it says you can sit there and you can see trends, and you can type in up to 5 words and see what the trends are of what's been registered either in the past 7 days, 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. So one of the things I can do then is I can go down here and I can type in worlds. And then the next one was apex, and then the next one was dentistry, and can't quite see over here what I have. Dentistry, winning, and legends. So I go over here, winning, legends, and then I click find trends. So this just shows me this week. We have the one in orange here, dentistry. For those of you listening that can't see what I'm saying, dentistry had somewhere between 10 and 50 names registered per week. So what you can do is you can get an idea of how many names are being registered in these trends. And then what I'll do is I'll go up here and I'll hit 60 days, and that'll show me what's happened over the last 60 days, which includes this period in February that the blog post talked about. So you can see if you're watching this video on dn.biz, or if you're listening, that we had some times during the month where on February 28th, someone registered 450 names with the word winning in them. And so that's probably one of the reasons it showed up on this blog post. And if you look at worlds on February 22nd, we had someone register 350 names with the word worlds in there. So my guess is, like some of you have done and like I've done, someone said, oh, I'm going to start a whole network with probably world's greatest, I would bet. World's greatest or world's best. And then you start, I'm going to have world's best hot dogs and world's best poker sites and world's best blogs and world's best cannabis. And I'm going to own all these names and I'm going to have a network and make a bunch of money. And so I think this is a chance to see where that happened. As a domain investor, when I just see one day where there was a huge spike, it tells me it was probably a single person who may be buying it to form a network of websites, and that's great, but it may not be the type of total global demand or widespread demand that I may be looking for to register a word that I haven't been doing a lot of registrations in because it's slowly picking up overall demand. So Apex is interesting. We have in February 13th, we had 130 names registered, going down to 60 names registered. But over the course of the month, it was certainly a lot more than had been done in the past. If we look at January, there was probably no time where Apex had more than 10 or 20 names for each day. So we'll go ahead and I can now get rid of these things by hitting the little X. And we'll look at numbers 6 through 10 and see if we can learn anything from that. We have they, and then we have keeper, and then we have pinpoint, and then we have Amelia, and then we have fold. So these are the numbers 6 through 10 again of the Verisign blog's top trending keywords in com and net, and we're doing numbers 6 through 10 in com. And the words in com were they, keeper, pinpoint, Amelia, and fold. And so if you're looking on the blog, if you're looking on the video, you'll see that pinpoint had a spurt up to 60 on February 9th. 62 names were registered with pinpoint. So whether pinpoint was the name of a company or people were building a network. What's interesting was keeper. We had a big spike on February 28th with 165 names. Amelia picked up 44 names on February 23rd and 17 on the 18th. And that's a situation where there had never been more than maybe 10 or 20. So the other thing that's interesting is you can go over here to the right if you're looking at the video, and you can see registered domain names. And of the 5 keywords that I've put in, it'll go ahead and show me some of the names that were registered. So if I look at it and I see Amelia, Amelia Britton, that's probably just one person's name, Amelia Life Church, Amelia and Dryan. So it's really hard to see a big theme there that may be coming about because of these registrations. Now, the one that is interesting to me is pinpoint in green, and we have a registration yesterday of pinpoint privacy. So I may go look at that to see if that's actually a term that people are trying to get. I want pinpoint privacy, or whether it's a brandable where there's a company called Pinpoint. But here we have Pinpoint Local NYC, Pinpoint Health Centers, Pinpoint Outcome, Pinpoint Yes, Pinpoint Privacy. And I've never really thought of the word pinpoint to be significant. So I may just go to Google and I may just type in pinpoint. Obviously, the definition is any dot or point. We have a restaurant in North Carolina. We have synonyms. We have rewards. We don't have any paid search over here. We don't have any paid search up here. So I'll type in pinpoint privacy and see if that's a company. Pinpoint enables companies in a wide variety of industries to more effectively forecast and influence human behavior. So anyway, it does seem like a word that's picking up, and I don't know, I kind of like it, so maybe I'll run it through my brandables list. But anyway, that's kind of what we can learn from these top 10 trends. Now, what's interesting is we're talking about names that made this top 10 list because they had an increase from maybe doing 5 to 10 a day to all of a sudden doing 100 or 200 in one day. The other thing to look at, just to finish up the job here, oh, I never got fold in there. We'll type in fold, and fold is in light blue, so it looks like we had 60. There were some days where 60 and 50 came up. Now I am going to go ahead and type in the top keywords in net, and even though I'm not looking at net, I'm going to type them in just to see the ones that we haven't done already. Studios, Friends, Epic, EPIC, STEM, and Attorney, which should be pretty big. All right. So what this tells me is, again, these are names that showed up on the top 10 names that had increases in registrations for net. And attorney is interesting because, again, I'll read this to you if you're on the podcast. You can see it on the blog. Attorney usually comes in around 50 or 60 per day, and we had some spikes of 200. We had some spikes of 300. We had some spikes of 150, so that makes sense. STEM, which could also be system, so you may have both things happening here. STEM for stem cells, but system looks pretty consistent at 200 per weekday. You'll always see this drop here on the weekend. So I think it shows us that domain names are still done during the week, U.S. time at least, by businesses and not as much on the weekend. So you'll see a constant, this purple thing here of 100, over 200 every weekday for attorney. Studios does about 100 every weekday, and I really don't see a spike that would maybe lead me to believe that all of a sudden studios names are really taking off. Epic looks like it was one big spike here of 122 names on the 20th. And then I'll go over here to see if there's anything I can learn. Boy, workersinjuryattorney.com. That's not a bad domain name for someone to get as a registered domain name. You want it to be workers' comp attorney or injury attorney, but that's not terrible. And this gives you over here an idea of what people are registering. And as I said in my introduction to Domain Scope, which you can find on the videos of dn.biz, you'll see here mostly 3-word names, and that gives you an idea what people are registering, and they seem to be happy with it. Let's see, it's funny here, you'll see typos in here, epic friends, with friends misspelled, weed friends with friends. Oh, you know why it's misspelled? I misspelled it. Let's see. Boy, that doesn't help. Boy, and that's interesting that so many misspells of friends would be out there. Let's put friends on there spelled correctly, and it's actually lower. So who would believe? Well, this is an interesting thing. Excuse me for this, but it'll just kind of be curious to type in friends spelled correctly and friends spelled incorrectly. Okay, I was right. The friends is better than the friends. All right. Never mind. All right. So now let's look at, but what could have happened was you could have got the inference from the domain post that those were the top words done over the course of that month, but they weren't. And so I could go ahead and use, if I clear out all the things here on domain name trends, then it will show you, again, we're on Verisign Domain Scope, domainscope.com, domain name trends, and it will show you the most popular keyword registered over the past 90 days, and it was home. Home, H-O-M-E. So I think there you have home, you have homes, you have homepage. But what I can also do is I can add 5 keywords, and it shows me up top the most popular ones. So I'm going to do home, shop, group, life, and online. And I think if you look at this, now you're looking at domain names that have average registrations on a daily basis of home, almost 1,000 a day, shop, almost 1,000 a day, life, 750 a day during the week, online, about 500 a day, and then group, about 500 a day. Now, one, this could be because these are popular. 2, I believe most of the spinners at the different registrars that give people options when their most favored name is taken will lean toward these words. And because they lean toward these words, and then most people say, oh, that's a good enough substitute for what I need, that encourages more registrations in these words. It can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. But what's interesting about that is when you do see another word jump up and become more popular, then you know it's a real trend because it wasn't being served up as a best number 2 or number 3 choice, and all of a sudden it got into the 2, 4, 6, 800, or 1,000 range. So those are the top 5. We'll look at number 6, tech. Now I can see it'll add tech to it. Oh, it did add tech to it. Well, I've never known that you can do more than 5. And then we'll add services, and we'll have best, which is interesting. .best has come out here recently, but that's in purple. That's down to 250 a day, and then store. So one of the things that I use this for is I do buy names in only certain categories. And a couple of my favorite categories are on this list right here. I won't tell you which ones because, hey, who wants competition out there? But I think this will give you a hint if you think when you see the blog post that some of those words are not just having huge increases in registrations, but that they're actually some of the top words of all words being registered each day, that it's still the ones that are tried and true. All right, so I'm going to take these out, and I went back to lean domain search, and I went ahead and looked at some other ones that we can look at that are among the top 1,000 words registered, top 5,000 words, I'm sorry, on lean domain name search, registered in all domain names. And I want to see how they're doing in terms of being current trends. So I'm going to do media, I'm going to do design, I'm going to do world, I'm going to do web, and I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to do smart, because that's one of my favorite ones. And now I'm going to look at these 5. So what we have is we have the top one in green, design, still averages over 600 every weekday. Web is still 500 every weekday. World is 400 every weekday. Media still going strong, about 400 every weekday. And smart going strong, about 200 every weekday. So not as good as the other ones. And then if I wanted to, I could go up here and hit 7 days, and I could just see the last 7 days, but I could also go over here and get an idea. If you always tell people, hey, everything great's registered and everything that you can get you don't want, this is a way that I could have to see what people are registering just at hand registration. And as I suspected, most of these are or not brandables, but they're names that one company might want, like Summit Side Design. So I guess if you lived in Summit Side, you'd want that. World of Seances? I don't know. West London website, so that'd be good if you were in West London. You created websites. WorldsBestCompany.net. That's not terrible for a .net. Let's see. The rest of them. Extend design, so someone couldn't get extend spelled correctly, so they had to settle for this. So this just reconfirms the fact that people are settling for long 2- and 3-word names. We again think they should buy our 1- to 2-word names for higher prices. And again, that's the challenge that we have. So we have Zuzu's design. So that's pretty interesting. All right, then the last thing I did was I went ahead and looked on another screen at some of the top Google search terms for the month, and a couple of the ones that I picked out, and I wanted to see if they were having some increases, was sports and then solitaire. I thought those would be kind of interesting. So sports we see is about 200 names a day, and solitaire is much lower, maybe 5 to 10 names a day. But and that's true there. So the other thing is I'll add in another couple words. Well, I'll take these off, and maybe I decide that I always like to go back to some tried and true things like insurance. So I'll look at insurance. I'll look at life insurance. I'll look at the word insure just to see if people are doing that more than insurance. I'll do car insurance. And it's another fun way to compare words that you think are similar, which is I can do car insurance. Oh, I can't do car insurance and auto insurance. It doesn't work well with 2 words. Let's just do car and auto. Or I'll do car versus auto. And you can see that car is up there around 1,000 a day, but that could be all the different words that have car in it. Auto shows at 300 a day, but that's still pretty good. Again, it could be auto and automatic. Insurance is down here. Let me get rid of car and auto. And I can just see on a relative basis. Oh, it won't show me insurance. Anyway, so insurance, you'd have to say, is a steady trend. Now, if you want to see some big differences in trend, and stay with me, I know it's been a long time here, but let's look at some big trends that may show us some big movers. We'll do cannabis, we'll do hemp, we'll do CBD, CBD. We'll do marijuana, and we'll do vaping. And so this would be the current trend of marijuana, cannabis, vaping. See, vaping down here on the bottom is the lowest, maybe 1 a day. Marijuana has gone down to where it's maybe 30, 40, 50 a day, which still isn't bad. Cannabis staying regular at 80 to 150. Hemp has taken over for being higher than cannabis. It's doing 150 a day and had one day where it did 617. And then CBD, which is now doing 300 a day. And if I look at them, it could be some other word that has CBD in it, but it's not. It's CBD, wax nips. I'm looking at recent registrations with CBD. CBD Heaven, misspelled with no E. CBD Skin Effects. CB Derm FX. CBD AFN. CBD Capco. So really, it's almost treating CBD, I'm sorry. Had my heart disease on my mind there. It's almost treating CBD as something that in most people's mind, everything good is taken. So I'll probably go ahead and try to buy some names with CBD in them. Well, how do I do that? Well, one of the ways you can do it is with the Domain Scope Suggestions tool, and that'll be on our next video. So look for Page Howe, Domain with Me, looking for Domain Scope and the Suggestions tool. Thanks a lot for listening to this podcast or watching this video. Do put a comment or two, if you would, and tell us whether this was terrible, okay, awesome, or anything else that you'd like to see us do in a Domain with Me segment. Thanks a lot. This is Page Howe at dn.biz.